How is it going, everybody? Too Spooky here. Just to let you know ahead of time, I'm going to ramble on about a few things like updates about future top 10s and such before we actually jump into the list. So if you don't care about any of that and you're just here to get to the point, feel free to skip ahead to this time in the video. Now, with that out of the way, I just wanted to clarify what the future of these top 10s are going to look like. These analytical top 10s I do are generally where I put in the most time and effort, which is why you don't see them super often. Because it's just simply not possible for me to throw these together week after week in a timely manner, which is part of the reason why I space them out. With that being said, it's been over a year now since the last One Piece top 10, and the reason it's been taking so long is because I was waiting until my previous One Piece top 10, the top 10 strongest One Piece characters video, hit 10,000 likes, which is a pretty outrageous number. Needless to say, that video got pretty damn close to 10,000 likes, so thank you all so much if you were one of the people who left one. But even with all that support, it still didn't hit the 10,000 likes for a new One Piece top 10, so I was simply waiting until that to release a new one. But I recently decided to do a poll on the channel to see what series you guys wanted to see a top 10 on first, and by a very slim margin, One Piece ended up on top. So what I decided to do was make this video here, the top 10 wasted devil fruits in One Piece. And when this video hits a whopping 2,500 likes, I will make another One Piece top 10. To be specific, I'm going to make the top 10 best or strongest devil fruits. So after watching this video, if you enjoyed it, be sure to smack the like button so I can get that next video started. But at the same time, we still never hit that goal on the previous top 10. So once that video finally reaches 10,000 likes, I will make the follow-up to that one, which will be the top 10 strongest non-devil fruit users in One Piece. I've seen that particular top 10 requested quite a bit, so if you want to see that video get made, be sure to check out the top 10 strongest characters in One Piece and drop a like while you're there. Anyways, the last update before we dig into this video, I also wanted to say that some more top 10s focusing around other anime series will also be in the works. So if you enjoy this top 10 format in general, you're gonna have something to look forward to even if it's not One Piece related. But regardless, I'm still going to space the uploads out a little bit. Now with that little speech out of the way, let's begin. So today, we're going to be counting down the top 10 wasted devil fruits in One Piece. You may be thinking, well, what even is a wasted devil fruit? Because really every devil fruit is unique and useful in their own way, so therefore none of them are really wasted in the first place. Well, to me, a wasted devil fruit is a devil fruit that was not utilized to its fullest potential, meaning it was either eaten by someone who is unintelligent, weak, or someone who is just using the devil fruit in the wrong way. Take Luffy for example. I think most of us out there could agree that if anyone else in the One Piece world were to have eaten the Gomu Gomu no Mi, they would never have been able to utilize the fruit's potential even close to the many unique techniques and abilities that Luffy has created and demonstrated throughout the story, showing us that in reality, we really don't have any weak devil fruits, at least not that many weak devil fruits, but instead weak devil fruit users. So this video is focusing on devil fruits I believe could potentially be extremely good if they weren't wasted on a terrible devil fruit user. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that my pronunciations aren't that great, and this video is based on my own personal opinion, but I will back up these opinions with facts. We will also only be focusing on devil fruits that are confirmed to be canon, so anything filler is not eligible for this list. Now, without further ado, let's begin with an honorable mention. I wanted to start this out by letting you know that no Logia devil fruits will appear on this list, because in my opinion, all of them are utilized at least decently by their respective users. The only two that I briefly considered putting on this list were Smoker and Caribou, because I feel out of the current Logia devil fruits, these are the only two that have the most room to improve. But compared to the wasted devil fruits we're about to talk about, these two didn't really come close. Now with that honorable mention out of the way, let's get into the actual list. Number 10, the Horohora Nomi, otherwise known as the Hollow fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Perona. I'm not going to go over everything with this devil fruit, but the Horohora Nomi allows the user to create ghosts, which are known as hollows. These hollows can be used for a variety of different things, from spying on people, astral projection, making them explode, and even making someone give up their will to live completely for a limited time. So this fruit can do a variety of different things, all of which are very useful for intelligence gathering and combat. Certainly one of the most underrated devil fruits at that. The reason I placed this devil fruit on this list is mainly just because of Perona herself. In my honest opinion, I think this devil fruit actually suits Perona very well, and Perona is actually very resourceful and competent with this devil fruit. Really, I couldn't imagine anyone else with this devil fruit. But with all that being said, Perona isn't the strongest individual when it comes to strength, or actual hand-to-hand combat in any way. So unless she's fighting with her hollows, she really has nothing going on for her in close combat. And that's really the only reason I felt she deserved to be on this list. Because, let's be honest here, Perona was defeated by Usopp. And not just any Usopp, pre-timeskip Usopp. Usopp may be a formidable opponent these days, but back then, he kinda sucked eggs. And because Perona was bested by Usopp even while having this magnificent devil fruit on her side, I really have no choice but to make her our number 10. Because if this fruit was used at the same capacity or better by someone who was physically stronger, they would have never been defeated by someone like Usopp. And for that reason alone, the Horohora Nomi is our number 10. Number 9. The Mato Nomi, otherwise known as the Mark fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Vanderdecken. This devil fruit allows the user to mark a target, which they do by touching an individual with their hand. This can only be done to living creatures, and not inanimate objects. Once an individual is marked, the user is then able to send any object at the marked individual. So for instance, if an individual is marked, the user is able to throw an axe at them from any distance or location in the world, and that axe will fly all the way across that distance, no matter how far that may be, until it hits the marked individual. The objects the user is able to send at a marked individual is only limited to inanimate objects, so the size of the object also does not matter as long as it is not living. The object in question will also gain momentum the further the distance, meaning that something like a rock could do more damage than a speeding bullet if thrown from far enough away. The only downfalls of this fruit being that the flying objects can be stopped in one way or another by people or structures, but generally the object in question will maneuver around anything in its direct path, meaning something has to be directly in front of the marked individual for it to be halted, or a different person needs to enter its path to directly stop it. If the user falls asleep or is knocked unconscious, any objects that were flying towards the marked individual will also stop their path. I mainly believe this fruit is wasted because Vanderdecken isn't a very strong or smart individual, so unless he is attacking an already marked individual from a distance, he really doesn't have much else going for him. This devil fruit has the potential to be an assassin's ultimate technique, yet it was wasted on this guy. If a stronger individual were to have eaten this fruit, they could clash with an enemy in close combat, mark them secretly with their hand, and then escape. Little does that enemy know, 30 large rocks are speeding at them a day later from many miles away. I feel the objects that could be sent at a marked individual were also very underutilized. Of course, Vanderdecken eventually sent that massive ship, but think of all the other potential things that could be thrown at someone. We've seen that for an item to fly at a marked individual, the user only needs to touch that object rather than needing to actually throw it. So in someone else's hands, this fruit could also be used to destroy entire cities or even entire islands. Just think of it this way. You go into a very populated town, you walk up to a local store in the center, mark one of the employees at that store secretly, and due to the fact that this now marked individual works in the city, they likely live there too. Now that you've marked your target, you leave. and now at some point either in a different city or maybe even a different island, touch a couple of the large buildings there and watch them get uprooted out of the ground, or go to a shipyard and touch each of the massive ships that are there. That town we just talked about is now going to get smashed by flying ships and possibly buildings that are traveling very fast, depending on the momentum they've picked up. So this devil fruit could be catastrophic if it was used correctly, and if the individual who had this fruit was stronger, they wouldn't be easily knocked out, so even if they were in a fight while these buildings were crashing down, it's very likely they'd still hit their target because the user could hold their own. So my main point for this one is that Vanderdecken himself is not near strong or smart enough. Therefore, no matter how hard he tries, I don't think he'll ever be able to use this fruit at its full potential, because when used correctly, this fruit could be potentially devastating. But even with that possibility, the items that are being sent are really the only things we could change about this fruit. So I find it unlikely that a different individual eating this fruit would be able to develop any new techniques, because this one is pretty straightforward. That fact alone is why I've placed this fruit near the bottom of the list, because although it was wasted on a worthless character like this guy, even if it was given to a Yonko like Kaido, the only thing that would really change is the objects Kaido could throw. So although there is room for improvement, it isn't much improvement. Number 8. The Mushi Mushi no Mi, model Suzume Bachi. The Mushi Mushi no Mi, model Kabuto Mushi, and the Zozo no Mi. These devil fruits were consumed by Bian, Kabu, and Funkfried. This will be the only tie on the list, and also the only Zoan devil fruits that are featured on this list. The main reason for that is because I feel that it's hard to waste a Zoan devil fruit, especially because some of them aren't even that great. So even if it's used on a weapon or a weakling, it's not really a big deal depending on the animal in question. Now if they wasted something like Marco's Phoenix fruit on a random throwaway marine like Very Good, you can bet your ass I'd be pissed. But with Zoans, we don't really see that happen very much. These three Zoans are really the only examples I could come across as what I would consider truly wasted devil fruits. Obviously, since they are all Zoans, they all have essentially the same abilities aside from the animal transformation in question, so it's really pointless going over the specifics of each. But to start with the Zozo no Mi, I feel like this devil fruit was wasted because it allows the user to turn into an elephant. And because elephants are such a large animal, this particular fruit would likely give a significant strength boost to the user and a size increase as well. But instead of giving it to a human who could benefit from those characteristics I just mentioned, it was consumed by a sword. That just sounds like the biggest waste of a potentially strong Zoan devil fruit. Honestly, I don't even think I need to say any more than that. I think you guys get the point for that one, it's just obviously a waste. Now with the other two, my main reason for thinking they are wasted is because they were eaten by a dwarf. And don't get me wrong though, the dwarfs are very powerful in their own right, being extremely fast and about as strong as a normal person, but my main issue is their size. These devil fruits allow the users to transform into a pink hornet and a Japanese rhinoceros beetle, and both of them also have very similar levels of strength, as one has a stinger and the other has a very powerful horn, and they both have the ability to fly. I personally just think these two devil fruits would be much better suited for a normal sized person, because it would make each of these fruits just that much more terrifying. A dwarf turning into an insect is really only going to appear like a larger than normal insect flying at you, which is really only going to be frightening if you're afraid of bugs. But if a normal sized person were to have eaten either of these devil fruits, they'd essentially be either an enormous hornet or an enormous beetle, like something out of Starship Troopers, which would be absolutely terrifying and likely more effective because the stinger and horn would be greatly increased in size as well. So my main reason for placing these two on the list is because I feel they would be much more effective if they were eaten by a different race. But that doesn't necessarily mean Kaku or Bian still can't use them effectively, so it's really not a complete waste. But I still feel these fruits were wasted regardless, which is why they will be our number 8. Number 7. The Hobi Hobi no Mi, otherwise known as the Hobby Hobby fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Sugar. This devil fruit allows the user to transform anyone they touch into toys. This will subsequently also erase that individual from existence in everyone's memories. After an individual is transformed into a toy, the user is then able to give a verbal contract to the toy victim, which will force the victim to follow any orders that are given for the rest of their life against their will. The only way for the toys to be transformed back into humans is either by the user directly touching them to turn them back, or the user being knocked unconscious, which will subsequently turn anyone who is transformed into a toy back to normal. This devil fruit also grants an additional ability, which is Eternal Youth. The age that the user consumes this devil fruit is the age the user will remain until their death. As far as we know, this fruit doesn't make the user immortal by any means, but it does keep their appearance at the age the fruit was originally eaten. So because Sugar was 10 years old when she consumed the fruit, she still appears to be 10 years old in every way physically, even though she is actually 22 years old. This devil fruit is actually one that I would consider to be one of the best in many ways. I could go way more in depth with its abilities, and I feel I severely underrated it while originally making my top 10 Paramecia list back in the day, but regardless of that, I still feel like this fruit was wasted, simply because of the fact that it was consumed by a 10-year-old. Obviously Sugar isn't 10 years old anymore, and she did use the devil fruit very well and very cleverly to assist in taking over an entire kingdom, but because she is forever with the physical abilities of a 10-year-old, she is very vulnerable to attacks like we saw with Usopp. However, if this fruit were to have been eaten by someone between the ages of 20 to 30, could you even imagine what they would be capable of? Right off the bat, they would be eternally in the peak of their physical capabilities. But putting that aside, I feel like this fruit could have been better utilized by someone else if they also added the additional contract qualification of making the toys fight for them with their lives in some sort of toy army. If Sugar can take over an entire kingdom with help, someone else could potentially do it single-handedly if they were stronger and a little bit older. Now, like I said, I still think this fruit was used pretty well by Sugar in almost every way considering the situation, but the fact that she consumed it at such a young age is why I truly feel that this one was wasted, and because of that, the Horohora Nomi is our number 7. Number 6. The Sabi Sabi Nomi, otherwise known as the Rust Rust fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Shu. This devil fruit allows the user to completely rust any metal, and in the anime, it was also shown to be able to rust a person's body as well. But since that's anime only, I'm only going to mention it once, although it would be really cool if that were a canon ability. Because the user rusts anything metallic, they are essentially completely immune to any sword attacks, because any sword that touches the user's body will rust and break before any cut can be made on the user's body. Because of this, the user is also able to effortlessly catch a blade with their bare hands without being cut. Now, the reason I feel this fruit was wasted is because it was given to a throwaway marine captain that we will likely never see again. Shu appeared with a few other throwaway marines at the end of Eni's lobby, and if you've seen my top 10 worst devil fruits video, you'll know who I'm talking about very well, because in addition to being throwaway marines, they were also given throwaway devil fruits. But Shu, on the other hand, was actually given a devil fruit that I believe is severely underrated, and I feel it's such a shame that it was wasted on someone like Shu rather than a strong character like a Vice Admiral or someone like that. In addition to not being able to be cut by any swords, I feel like the user may also be impervious to bullets or even cannonballs, because if the ammunition in question is also metallic, maybe it would have the same exact rust effect on a sword and disintegrate before the bullet could penetrate the user. This could also be a super useful devil fruit against someone like Mr. 1, who is literally a metal man. His whole entire body could be instantly rusted by this devil fruit with just one touch, and that is overpowered. But nothing like that will likely ever happen because this fruit was wasted on this sorry bastard. In all honesty though, at the very least, Shu is a marine captain. I mean, I guess that means he has the potential to possibly come back? Hopefully? Because in my opinion, this is truly an underrated devil fruit that was wasted on a one-time appearance character, and for that reason, the Sabi Sabi Nomi comes in at number 6. Number 5. the Otto Otto Nomi, otherwise known as the art fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Jorah. This devil fruit allows the user to transform anything, including people, into abstract art, making them lose their functionality in one way or another depending on the look of the art. This is done by the user making a thought cloud and then tossing it onto a person or object. This will then warp the object or person in question into a form of abstract art, making it lose its original functionality, such as warping a steering wheel so it can no longer steer. This devil fruit also has an additional ability of being able to create a gigantic art mural, where victims will then be slowly sucked in and become part of that art piece forever, subsequently losing their life in the process. Now I think we can all agree that Jorah herself is pretty worthless in almost every way, at least from what we've seen with the screen time she was given.
Damn, girl, you grew up. That's quite big. Impressive.
The only interesting thing about Jorah was her devil fruit, the Otto Otto Nomi, which is basically all I really need to say about this one because it's pretty self-explanatory as to why this one was wasted. So let's move on to number 4. Nerds, you guys thought I wasn't gonna explain myself. Psych.
Oh my dude, you just got pranked. Bet you didn't see that one coming, huh?
Unfortunately for you guys, I have a bit more to say about this one, so we can't move on just yet. This fruit in particular I feel was wasted even more than most, not just because Jorah is a nutcase, but because of the way she chose to use this devil fruit's power. You see, like many things in this world, art is subjective. Therefore, each individual's interpretation of art is also much different. I might think that a blue square is art, while the next guy might think a photograph of a hot dog is art. Everyone has a different opinion on what art is. So because this fruit is based on art itself, I feel like every person who might use this fruit would use it much differently. More or less, I feel like this fruit has less to do with art, but more with imagination. We saw Jorah use this devil fruit to project her vision of art onto other people and objects, essentially projecting how she believes they should look from her perspective of art, in the process rendering those items and people almost useless because her idea of art is abstract, meaning everything gets warped in the process. This leads me to believe that this devil fruit instead makes someone's thoughts and ideas into a reality, rather than just being specifically about art. I could be wrong, of course, because in reality this fruit was crafted specifically for Jorah, but if anyone else were to use it, I believe they could simply make anything they want to conjure up in their imagination a reality. Say the user wants to picture their enemy as a skeleton. By tossing this thought cloud at the enemy, would this make that thought a reality? Especially if the individual in question with the fruit truly believed that skeletons were the definition of true art. Would they be able to transform anyone into just bones, or how would that work? We can't know for sure, nor will we ever know, but because this could be a possibility, I have no choice but to think that this devil fruit was truly wasted. Because if it really could have the ability to make any imagination a reality, this thing would be severely overpowered. I mean, we have seen that it can already one-hit kill people by making them forever part of a mural, so imagine what else it could do. Hell, if it's based on an individual's idea of art, imagine what Deidara from Naruto Shippuden could do with this thing. He'd only have to imagine people exploding, because
true art is an explosion!
And boom! They'd be dead. But because that also might not be the case with how this fruit works, I have no choice but to put this fruit in the middle of the list at number 5. Number 4. The Baku Nomi, otherwise known as the Munch fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Wapol. This devil fruit gives the user the ability to eat anything. And I mean anything. While that alone is quite the interesting power, there's much more to this devil fruit. Anything that the user eats can then be added to the user's own body temporarily. So for instance, if the user ate a cannon, they could then transform their arm into a cannon and use it like a cannon. The user also has the additional ability to take multiple things that were eaten, merge them together within their own body, and throw them up into a mixed version of the two items that were eaten. So if the user were to eat, let's say, a gun and a sword for instance, they could potentially make a gun with a long bayonet attached. As far as we know, this merging ability can be used for anything, including people. So the user can legitimately eat 2 or more people and combine them together into a hybrid of those same people. We've also seen that the user can also rearrange their own internal body structure with this fruit to, for instance, temporarily become skinny. Now, although Wapol has been shown to use this devil fruit pretty effectively, Wapol himself is pretty garbage, as most of you probably remember. And in addition to that, I feel this fruit is not quite used to the potential it could be. If this fruit were in the hands of a stronger or smarter individual, the possibilities with this devil fruit could be seemingly endless. For instance, say this devil fruit were to have been eaten by Vegapunk instead. Vegapunk could eat many different metals and gadgets to create any invention he would like within his own body. We've seen that Vegapunk has already harnessed the lasers from Kizaru's devil fruit into the Pacifista, so Vegapunk could simply just eat a Pacifista and any other potential weapons he wants to add to them to mass breed an army of newly found Pacifista. Or let's say a Yonko like Kaido. He wants an army of Zoan devil fruit users. Well, you can't exactly crossbreed devil fruits with this fruit because it was confirmed by Oda to not be possible, although this did happen in a non-canon movie. But Kaido could simply eat a crew member, and then eat a random animal to crossbreed them into a permanent human-animal hybrid. So you could essentially single-handedly create Zoan users that aren't actual Zoans, but are basically Zoans. Or if not for that purpose, a pirate captain could eat strong crew members and mix them together to essentially create the ultimate crew in terms of physical and mental capabilities. So really the possibilities are endless with this fruit, and because Wapol hasn't used this fruit even close to its possible potential, nor is he himself that great of a character, I feel this fruit was just simply wasted when it could have been used for far greater feats. But even though it was wasted, Wapol at least used it somewhat effectively in his short appearance, so for that I at least have to give him a little credit, even though I hate to say it, especially when the fruits above this one are wasted much more than this one. So because this fruit is wasted, but not quite as wasted as it could be, it will be our number 4. Number 3. Kanjuro's unnamed Paramecia devil fruit. This devil fruit is pretty straightforward, having the ability to bring anything the user draws into its real-life counterpart. So if the user were to draw a bird, that 2D bird would then manifest into a 3D bird with all the qualities of its real-life counterpart, such as being able to fly. This also works for things like food that is actually edible when manifested in 3D. I think you guys can probably already tell why I believe this devil fruit was wasted, but if you haven't figured it out yet, it's because Kanjuro doesn't know how to f***ing draw! This man right here has the ability to bring anything, and I mean anything, into reality just by drawing it. But when you can't draw, it's a bit useless now, isn't it? This man over here is just the low-budget version of Sai from Naruto, for f***'s sake. I could really just sit here for 10 minutes going over all the potential things Kanjuro could manifest with this ability, but there's really no point. In a lot of ways, this fruit is very similar to the Otto Otto Nomi we talked about previously, but this is the far superior version, because this fruit truly works based on the user's own imagination of what to draw, and their ability to actually draw it to bring it to life. And very similar to Jorah, this fruit is wasted on Kanjuro, because of his inability to use this fruit anywhere near its potential. This man could draw an army of dragons to conquer the 7 kingdoms like Aegon Targaryen, or just a nuke to, you know, nuke people, but instead he can't even draw a bird correctly. Bottom line, this fruit is wasted because Kanjuro doesn't know how to draw. And I think we can all agree that this fruit would be so much more useful in an artist's hands, or really anyone who has a shred of artistic ability, making this truly one of the most wasted devil fruits in One Piece. Number 2, the Horohora Nomi, otherwise known as the slow fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Foxy. This devil fruit allows the user to emit Noroma photons, which are apparently microscopic particles that can slow anything down significantly for 30 seconds. The user can shoot a beam of these particles or emits them in some other way, and whatever this photon beam touches will then be slowed down exponentially until 30 seconds later, when it will wear off and return back to its normal speed. This can work on both objects and people. Any damage that a person receives while affected by these photons will also not affect the individual until the photons wear off, meaning a significant amount of damage can be dealt and received by the individual all at once. Do I even need to explain myself with this one? Foxy is probably one of, if not the most worthless character to ever be introduced in One Piece. While watching that arc, all I could think was, am I watching filler right now? I'm still honestly amazed that arc wasn't filler, but that alone should attest to how worthless this man is. This devil fruit has so much potential to take down even the absolute strongest of enemies, and it was given to this abomination. To further explain what I'm talking about, just think of everything this fruit could potentially do if it was given to a stronger individual. The ability itself is pretty straightforward and can't really be used any differently, but what you do while a person is slowed down is what truly could make this fruit amazing. If this devil fruit were to be given to a marine admiral, for instance, they could easily just waltz up on any pirate or criminal, hit them with a photon beam, and then quickly put them in sea stone handcuffs while beating them to a pulp before that 30 seconds wears off, in turn making the pirate in question both subdued and potentially unconscious all at the same time. Yet, this waste of life over here uses it to steal crew members through cheating and nothing else. I'm pretty sure he was just given a bounty out of pity, only because his devil fruit ability was overpowered, and that's really it. There's nothing else threatening about this man. This is by far one of the most wasted devil fruits in terms of how useful this devil fruit could be for pretty much anyone else besides Foxy, and it's just such a shame it was wasted on such a garbage character like him. But even if this may be one of the most wasted, it's still not quite as wasted as our last contestant. So the Horohora Nomi will be our number 2. And the moment you've all been waiting for, number 1, the Baku Nomi, otherwise known as the Bomb fruit. This devil fruit was consumed by Mr. 5. This devil fruit makes the user a bomb human, meaning that every aspect of their body can be used to explode like a bomb. This includes everything from the user's arms and legs exploding into someone upon impact, or something like the user's own snot or breath being used as long-ranged explosives. This also subsequently makes the user of this fruit immune to any and all explosions. I know quite a few of you out there think this fruit is nowhere near as wasted as some of the previous ones, but just hear me out. This devil fruit was, and has always been, the fruit I think of first when it comes to cool and potentially very useful abilities that were thrown away early on in the series, and it still remains that way to me to this very day. Mr. 5 himself seems like a decently strong individual during his first appearances, so he himself isn't exactly completely worthless like Foxy, for instance, but Mr. 5 is still considered extremely weak when compared to even the basic enemies in some of the latest arcs. I know that's mainly because enemies gradually get stronger as the story goes on to create better conflict and whatnot, but the fact of the matter is, Mr. 5 himself just isn't that great or strong in the grand scheme of things. However, even if we push that aspect to the side, I feel the biggest reason this devil fruit was wasted was because of how how ineffectively Mr. 5 used it. Nowhere near the potential this devil fruit could have, in my opinion. For one, this devil fruit is very similar to Gladius's Baku Nomi, except this one instead deals with the user's own body rather than inanimate objects exploding. But for a fair comparison, I would like to believe that both of these fruits have similar damage capabilities in terms of their explosions. So right away, this devil fruit should be on par with one from later on in the series, specifically during an arc that mirrors the one where this one was introduced. But even with that being said, the Baku Nomi was never demonstrated to be on that level. The first way I feel this fruit was underutilized is by the sheer fact that it seems Mr. 5 needs to consciously activate this ability for it to work, rather than it passively working with any contact. Similar to how a Logia user can let anything pass through them passively, I feel like a better user for this fruit could have trained their bodies to automatically create explosions with unexpected contact. So if anybody tried to sneak in a sucker punch or anything like that, their body would automatically explode against the enemy's fist upon contact. But that level of expertise was never shown. On the other side, while an exploding booger is pretty creative on its own, I have to admit, this fruit could have also been utilized very similarly to a certain My Hero Academia character, if you're familiar, which is Bakugo. In a way, these two have very similar abilities, but while the Baku Nomi makes the user's entire body capable of exploding, Bakugo's explosions only come from his sweat, which he creates massive explosions with. So if Bakugo can do it, the user of this devil fruit should also be able to store sweat and use it to create massive explosions. A goddamn high schooler is able to use this ability more effective than you, and he has the vastly less useful version. Man, that is saying something. In general, I feel explosions are a bit underwhelming in the One Piece world because almost any character can take an explosion point blank and walk out like nothing happened. But the fact of the matter is, I still have much higher expectations for this fruit's capabilities, and it was simply wasted way too early on some nobody. I guess we kind of got a redemption with Gladius as essentially Mr. 5 2.0, but even he was a bit too underwhelming. So bottom line, whether you agree or not, I believe the Baku Nomi is the most wasted devil fruit in One Piece. But regardless, it was a very close call in deciding. Anyways guys, that is the top 10 wasted devil fruits in One Piece. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and hopefully you agreed with my list. If you did, great, but if you didn't, make sure to comment below which devil fruits you think were wasted and what your top 10 would be. Be sure to subscribe and smack that notification bell to be notified about future videos. And with that, if you enjoyed, make sure to please leave a like, because like I said at the beginning of the video, once this video hits 2,500 likes, the top 10 best or strongest devil fruits video will be coming. So if you want to see that video happen, be sure to drop a like right now, son. Sorry for the wait once again on this video, guys. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff on the way very soon, so thank you all for supporting me and for sticking around. You guys are the best. If you cannot get enough One Piece content, well, be sure to click here for the previous top 10, the top 10 strongest One Piece characters, or feel free to click here for a video explaining the true difference between Logia and Paramecia devil fruits. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon with a new video.